In 490 BCE, Marathon's plain became the road between Persia and Athens on Attica's eastern coast. Athens faced danger without knowing whether any ally would arrive in time, with panic rising behind the walls. The popular runner legend is famous, but the deeper story starts earlier. Ionian Greek cities had rebelled, pulling Athens into imperial consequences after the revolt in Ionia. When Sardis burned, Darius gained a grievance he would not forget in the Western Persian Empire. Darius saw Athenian defiance as a challenge to imperial order. Persian envoys asked for earth and water, meaning submission. The invasion moved by sea, island by island across the Aegean through the Cyclades and Euboea. Eretria fell first, warning Athens what Persian punishment could mean with its people carried away. Hippias came with the Persians, making tyranny feel possible again through an old Athenian exile. For Athenians, this was invasion and internal politics at once. Marathon mattered because beach, plain, hills, and road met there between marshland and mountain routes. Datis and Artaphernes brought imperial command ashore with the fleet after crossing from conquered Eretria. The Persian army was an imperial force drawn from many peoples. Its strength included archers, cavalry, ships, and operational reach against men trained for close combat. Athens marched out because waiting could leave the city exposed before the Persians controlled movement. The hoplite line answered with shield, spear, discipline, and pressure in a citizen-soldier formation. Plataea joined Athens, making a small ally morally enormous beside a much larger neighbor. Sparta promised help, but sacred timing delayed its army until the full moon passed. Phidippides ran to Sparta before the battle, not after it, across brutal mountain distance. The famous death run to Athens belongs to later tradition. For days, both armies watched each other across the plain while supplies and morale mattered. The central question was timing, not courage alone. Persian cavalry made open ground dangerous for heavy Greek infantry if they found open flanks. Yet cavalry seems absent or limited at the decisive moment in every serious reconstruction. Miltiades understood Persian warfare better than most Athenian leaders from years near Persian power. The generals argued because every option carried real risk under democratic pressure and fear. Callimachus helped tip the decision from waiting to attack. The Greek line stretched wide, thinning its center dangerously to avoid being outflanked. That weakness mattered because the wings became the trap if both wings held firm. The Athenians and Plataeans advanced across exposed killing ground before fear could take over. To Persian eyes, the Greek charge may have looked reckless. Speed narrowed the time spent under Persian arrows before the line broke apart. Then bronze, wood, linen, and bodies met at close range where training became survival. The Persian center pushed back the thinner Greek middle, but the Greek wings broke through on both sides. When those wings turned inward, the battle changed shape against the advancing Persian center. Marathon was not magic, but armor, formation, timing, and risk. Persian survivors fled toward ships waiting near the shore before Greek hands reached hulls. Some of the fiercest fighting happened beside the vessels where ships became fortress walls. Herodotus gives Athenian dead as 192. He gives Persian dead as 6,400. The Athenian dead were buried on the battlefield itself beside the casualty tradition. The burial mound made victory part of the landscape, not in a distant cemetery. The Spartans arrived too late, then inspected the field. Athens still faced danger from the surviving Persian fleet with the city still vulnerable. The tired hoplites hurried back to defend their city over more than 20 miles. When Persian ships appeared, Athenians were already waiting near the roadstead at Phaleron. The expedition withdrew, leaving Athens alive but not safe forever. Marathon did not end Persian ambition, it delayed it for a single generation. 10 years later, Xerxes brought a far greater invasion under a different Persian king. That is why Marathon matters and why it can be overstated. Because later memory grows ambitious. It was not an eternal war of East against West and ignores local Greek choices. Greek cities were divided, competitive, and often suspicious instead of one united Greece. Some Greeks saw Persian order as protection, not only oppression. Athens turned Marathon into a story about civic courage after fear had become pride. Dedications at Delphi broadcast the victory beyond Athens through sanctuaries everyone knew. Art on the Acropolis kept Marathon visible for later generations in sculptures and painted memory. Later Athenians used Marathon as proof of public virtue. Aeschylus wanted memory of Marathon attached to his name more than his plays alone. Even Greek tragedy lived near the memory of war. Miltiades became heroic, but his later life was darker. Marathon glory did not protect him from Athenian politics after a failed later campaign. Victory strengthened democratic confidence, but Athens remained complicated. Soon naval power would matter more than hoplite glory before triremes changed everything. Themistocles later pushed Athens toward ships, silver, and sea power from the Laurion silver mines. The story moved from Marathon's plain to Salamis water where oars replaced spear walls. The modern marathon race grew from a later legend beyond Herodotus' earlier account. In 1896, that legend became a modern Olympic ritual in the first modern Olympics. A battle can be remembered for facts and for needs. The Persian side left fewer narrative traces for us behind Greek storytelling dominance. That imbalance shapes what feels obvious in the story whenever sources survive unevenly. Herodotus is essential, but he is not a camera and he writes with purpose. We know the landing, battle, victory, and memory. We debate cavalry, numbers, timing, and true decisiveness, because evidence has edges. The first evidence is geography, beach, marsh, hills, and road before commanders chose anything. The second evidence is material memory, mound, dedications, and art after memory became physical. The third evidence is storytelling, rebuilt by every generation from antiquity into modern identity. The tactical lesson is not simply run bravely and win. The real lesson is striking when the whole system briefly opens before opportunity disappeared. Plataea reminds us small allies can change moral weight. Athens survived, and survival changed what Athens imagined possible in the city's political imagination. But empire returned larger, better prepared, and still dangerous. That makes Marathon powerful because it is not a final answer, but a dangerous opening. It is a beginning of confidence, propaganda, imitation, and debate. The popular version asks whether one runner saved Athens instead of the battle system. The better question asks why a small city attacked an empire under pressure from empire. Follow Lore Atlas for history where evidence and legend stay separate. Marathon endures because it turns fear into a story of choice. The questions still run because the legend never replaced the history across every later retelling. Long after burial, Marathon became a weapon in speeches and politics. Later Europe made Marathon a founding myth, flattening both sides for nationalism and identity. For Persia, Marathon was a failed expedition, not imperial collapse within a still powerful empire. For Athens, it proved citizens could survive imperial pressure in one frightening afternoon. That double scale is why evidence matters more than clean legend. Marathon's terrain is part of the evidence. Plain, marsh, hills, ships, and the distance to Athens shaped what each side could risk. The battle was not an abstract clash of courage. It was a decision made in a specific landscape. The real question is not who ran, but who chose to stand when fear made action necessary. The later messenger story became famous because it gave the battle a single human body to remember. But the historical importance lies in collective action, citizen soldiers, commanders, allies, timing, and a city deciding not to wait passively. For the next ancient turning point, follow Lore Atlas and the evidence. That distinction matters. Marathon did not end the Persian Wars, and it did not prove Athens was invincible. It became powerful because a dangerous local victory was later turned into a story about identity and survival.